Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
Quote of the weekend comes from Volodymyr Zelensky, president of Ukraine. I don't need a ride, I need ammo. Because the American's like, we can get you out of there. And he's like, I'm not going anywhere. By the way, his kids are there. His wife is there. He's not going anywhere. And guess what? Neither are the Ukrainians. Neither are the Ukrainians. Finally, over the weekend, it became apparent that more had to be done, and swift it is. And swift it is hammering right now the Russians. The ruble is less than a cent. I'm going to say that again. The ruble is less than a cent. Their market is crashing. People are lining up to get cash. They understand what is going on, that they'll spin it that, oh, it's the Americans trying to do this, trying to do that. But the reality is it's not the West. The entire world, minus a few, are on this. But the ugliness contended and continues to go overnight, a little bit less than before. A lot of that is because I think a lot of people think they're meeting in Belarus today, who, by the way, Belarus was hit hard with sanctions, and at some point in time, they're supposed to jump into this war as well. Their president is a puppet for Putin, but it was still a weekend of violence and ugliness. And the Russians, they just seem, well, that mighty force isn't as mighty as I think they thought it was.
The city of Kyiv under siege. Attacks close to the city center, with Russian military vehicles seen on the city streets. The sound of gunfire echoed in residential areas. Air raid sirens sounding across the capital. The U.S. now concerned that Kyiv could fall into Russian control within days. And the civilians of Ukraine are paying a horrible price of war.
Yeah. Horrible price it is. Who knows how many? They're saying between about 500 and 700,000 people are trying to get out of the Ukraine. And then you've got anybody who's 16 to 60, essentially. If you're a male civilian, you're not allowed to leave. But it's not just that. You're not even allowed to leave. You got to fight. And could we bring other people into the fight?
Satellite photos show a massive Russian military convoy headed in the direction of Kyiv, stretching over 3 miles long. With fears these troops could enter the city at any moment, many residents now taking up arms. Ukrainian citizens are showing resistance around the country. In Berdyansk, which is occupied by Russian forces, locals came out facing a Russian tank, singing the Ukrainian national anthem.
Yep, and now they're asking, hey, if you are essentially a mercenary, and you don't like what Russia's doing, come on over. We'll give you a gun, and we'll let you fight. Ooh. But the big thing was SWIFT over the weekend. Yesterday, it became apparent that SWIFT was going in, and it is going to hurt them big time. Absolutely, it is going to make them feel like, what in God's name is going on? So if you don't know what SWIFT is, I'm breaking it down. I'm going to keep it simple, stupid. I'm going to do a little chat splaining here. SWIFT is a co-op. It's not an actual banking entity. It is the messaging system that allows people to bank immediately. So from point A to point B, securities, dollars, euros, those kind of things. By taking them off of this, it is going to crush their economy. And we're already seeing that. It is going to hammer their economy because it's essentially they can't bank in dollars anymore, which is kind of the global currency. So they're going to have some workarounds, but we did this with North Korea, and we've done this to Iran. Both times, it has crushed them. There's a couple other things that they can do, but nothing will make up for this right here. And they're freaking out.
We've already seen in the last week, essentially a bit of a run on the banks. Something like $10 billion has already been taken out by regular Russian people who are worried that the ruble is crashing. When you go into a restaurant here, they will ask you to make sure that you've got cash with you because they're worried about having to make a kind of financial transaction with a card. So it's absolutely having an impact here.
Yeah, and it's going to continue to do so. All that being said, could we see them sit down and talk in a way where this leads to something? I don't know. To be honest with you, I don't know what the thought process is in the mind of Putin. He, over the weekend, hinted at the nuclear side of things, which was like, what?
Vladimir Putin appearing to raise the stakes higher, ordering his strategic nuclear defense forces onto heightened alert, claiming it's in response to so-called aggressive statements from NATO. But it may still be early days in this invasion. Satellite photos show a massive Russian military convoy headed in the direction of Kyiv.
One of the things we talked about the other day with our buddy Mike Lyons, we're going to try to get him on either later today or tomorrow, military analyst, works over at West Point, served in all of the desert storming, if you will, is the thing that he talked about is he didn't bring enough soldiers. He didn't bring enough, and a good portion of the soldiers that are there are first-year soldiers. And they'll tell you, first-year soldiers, because they still have conscription, and you're seeing a lot of people take off, by the way. People who don't want to be involved in this. The first-year soldiers, it takes you about a year before you really learn how to handle the gun, if you will. So what you're seeing is out of these 150 to 190,000, he goes, how many of them are actual stand there fighting soldiers? A lot of it is behind the scenes. And he said, we went into Desert Storm, the first one, we had 500,000 soldiers, but 360,000 of them were fighting soldiers. You don't have that here. So they're finding it tough. They are. They're finding it hard slog. I think they thought people would bounce and leave, and that is not happening. It is not happening at all, and I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon. They're going to put up the fight for as long as they can. Do I think eventually that they'll wear them out and that they will win, if you will, whatever winning is? Because at the end of the day, their whole thing is they're going to have to occupy this. What do? You're going to install a puppet government, but that puppet government is going to have the backing of Russia to actually control the people. Otherwise, it's not going to work. So you're going to have to occupy it. You can't just get rid of Zelensky and all of his cohorts and everything, and then put in a new government and expect that government not to face what we've faced in places like Iraq and Afghanistan, which is an actual occupation where what happens? You get people that fight back, a resistance. So, I don't know. He bit off more than he could chew. He's pissed. And the thought, man, when you saw him talk about the nuclear option, it was like, what? Even his generals are like, huh? Are you kidding? Are you being serious now? Yeah, I feel like you're being serious. And that's twice, though, that he's kind of hammered some of his top leaders. Last week, he went after essentially the guy that's the head of the new KGB on air and kind of tore him a new one. Really like neutered him in front of the world. And same kind of thing with this. So this is uncomfortable because I got, my son hit me up. My stepdaughter yesterday comes out and she says, are we going to have a nuclear war? And I said, we're not going to have a nuclear war. We're not. Now, could he do something insane? The possibility is there, of course. Will he do something insane? I would like us to think that there are powers that be inside and around Putin who, if he tried to do something of the nuclear option, would cut him off. Is that possible that nobody around him would? It is possible. But I would love to think that there is that situation where if somebody says we're doing something, somebody else says we've had enough. We're going to find out. That's for sure. I don't think we're going to have anything that rises to the level of nuclear, but could he start bringing in certain things? Now, we have the mother of all bombs. Remember that? The Moab? We use that. It's a vacuum bomb. So you drop it, and right before it hits the ground, it explodes, and then it basically sucks all the oxygen out, and it's really nasty. It's huge. We used it in Afghanistan. They have the father of all bombs, and I think people are waiting and seeing. Is he going to get frustrated enough that at some point in time in the next, say, 72 hours, that he decides to unleash a different kind of hell on the people of the Ukraine? Because if you're looking at the tanks, they're getting, we're sending them stuff. Not just us, but the world now. Even Germany's sending them things. He's getting they're getting javelins and things like that are actually working. And they're running out of gas. Producer Anthony and I were talking about, if you guys haven't seen the part where the guy hook up his tow truck and drives away with the tank, it's like the guy's chasing his. They're running into resistance. They're also in a situation where not only they run into resistance, but they're running out of supplies, the things they need. So you couple that with the frustration that he's feeling, now seeing the world turn their back on banking-wise, and then you go over and you look and see what's happening with the amount of soldiers that are taking, really just taking a beating, and everybody shunning themselves. He thought this was going to be easy, and it's not. The battle for Kyiv is still going on. Speaking of Kyiv, people want to, why is it Kyiv? Why is it Kiev? Russians call it Kiev. All right, Russians call it Kiev. People in Ukraine want everybody to call it Kyiv. The Russian language came up with Kiev, and the Russians, well, you know what's not your country. And you're finding that out. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. A lot of stuff to get to. UN is worried about something, and it's not this. Talk about that. CDC masking. Major League Baseball, are we going to have a season? Or are they going to say, nah, they are not close in getting a deal done. And today was the drop-dead date of a full season. Could we see partial season? Or could we see no season? Discuss that, a lot of other things as well. Car Shield, love it, use it, have it. Have it all my cars. It's not like I have a lot of cars, but I don't. But I do have a couple used vehicles that are not under warranty. And guess what? I have them absolutely protected by Car Shield. With Car Shield, I get 24/7 roadside assistance, a rental car for free while your car's in the shop. You choose the shop. They get to pay directly. It's that simple, kids. They do the paperwork and everything. You pay a small deductible. They've got a plan that fits anyone's budget. In a day and age where cars are going through the roof with their prices, especially used cars, many of you listening right now do not have a warranty. Why not protect yourself? Get yourself Car Shield. Over 1 million drivers been helped by Car Shield. Why not be one of them? Right now, save an extra 10% by going to carshield.com/Benson. That's carshield.com/Benson. Carshield.com/Benson. A deductible may apply. Chad Benson Show.
Hashtag me too. Hashtag immigration reforms. Hashtag help. I'm trapped in a hashtag factory and I can't get out. The Chad Benson Show.
Well, at least we have the CDC. I mean, they haven't always been perfect, but the science changed.
How does science change? When I make a mistake at work, I don't get to say the science changed.
At least we had outdoor dining.
Oh, you mean when they built a smaller restaurant in the street? How was that outdoors?
Oh, my God.
I will say COVID, they took a shot at some of the insanity over the weekend of COVID. The CDC's rolling back their mask mandates. Happy to know Friday night we got an email before the end of our local show here that said starting Monday, today, masks are optional. I'm not going to lie to you. The last 3 or 4 days, I just kind of wandered around just without my mask to see if anybody would say anything. And nobody had. So I thought, well, there you go then. Come join the rest of us. It's not very nice. Well, it's insane, right? New York, what are you going to do?
My friends, the day has come. Today we are going to be announcing that we'll be lifting the statewide mask requirement in schools, and that'll be effective this Wednesday, March 2nd.
Thank the Lord. What about kids?
By Wednesday, we'll be able to have a situation where we'll have the lifting of the mask requirement. And children, that includes children who are in child care centers ages 2 and up who are covered right now.
Yeah, which is silly. Have you ever tried to put have you ever tried to put anything on a 2-year-old? I have a 3-year-old. You know what she does? Whatever she wants. I try. And this weekend was daddy-daughter time. And I had a really bad toothache that I thought it was horrific. Could not sleep for 2 days. It turned out I had really torn my gum up. Bit into something, cut my gun, and it got infected. But I did not fight with her. There's a weekend where I didn't fight with her. So, you want to wear that same outfit 3 days in a row? Sounds good to me. Jeez. 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson shows your Twitter. Tweet at us. The Ukrainians and the Russian, they have, like, I guess, some envoys getting together. I do not know what they're going to actually talk about, because they've said unequivocally, you need to leave. You need to leave now. You need to go. You need to leave. There is nothing else. Get the hell out of here. And, of course, Russia is probably going to say no, but Russia is struggling.
The Russian military seems incompetent. It's shocking how bad they are. They aren't able to execute the very basics at the tactical or operational level. So this may lead to some desperation.
And that's the scary thing. The scary thing is the desperation. Because when you're desperate, as they seem to be. And plus, the other thing, it's not just desperation, it's also humanity. So, right? Some of the Russian soldiers were being told, like, what do we? They were told they were doing it was like an exercise. And they're getting in there and they're like, wait a minute, we've been told for the last umpteen years, these are our brothers and sisters. These are our people. Now you want us to fight them. What? And then the incompetence. We talked about it. We talked about the fact that soldiers only have to serve a year now. That many of these soldiers are completely new. That's who they sent up front. But when you start to feel like things aren't working, again, just go look at some of the stuff that's happening. That guy towing the tank away is hilarious. And all that being said, you look around and you think to yourself, would desperation cause Putin to do something that would be unthinkable? Maybe not a nuke, but maybe one of those giant vacuum bombs? It's a possibility. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. What's it doing to the oil markets? Talk about that straight ahead. Chad Benson Show.
Chad Benson Show.
Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
It's very interesting. The little things that people do that, last week we saw acts of heroism. Guy blow himself up on the bridge to make sure that the bridge was destroyed because he didn't think he could make it across before the explosion went. The sailors on Snake Island who told the Russian Navy, battleship to go blank themselves. How about this? Ukrainian sailor tried to sink a €5 million yacht of Russian weapons maker. 55-year-old was arrested in Mallorca after sabotaging the ship, now vows to go and join the fight against Putin. He says, I don't regret anything I've done, and I would do it again. He's traveling back to his home country in the Ukraine to pick up arms. And that's the other thing. The average person is picking up arms because they understand what is going on. They understand the seriousness of this. This is Kira Rudik. She's a member of the Ukrainian parliament. She's anti-gun, but
understand and realize that I'm holding a gun and I'm ready to bear arms and I'm ready to go and shoot the other human beings. And the reason for that was because Russian soldiers are coming to Kiev and Russian soldiers are trying to take what is actually not theirs. It's such a weird switch from your ordinary life when you are thinking that they may come, but you are still a member of parliament and you're doing meetings and legislation and talking to people, and then one day you just know that they're coming, and then you have to do something, and that's when you get a gun, and then you learn how to shoot it.
Yeah, it's very, again, very interesting that, they're calling on the citizens of the world. So Belarus is supposed to jump in this as well. They've already been sanctioned because they've allowed a ton of stuff to come through Belarus and to be anchored there, if you will, the Russian military. And he's a puppet. their regime is a puppet for Putin. And then on the other side, you're hearing now that Chechen hit squads are coming, and they're ready to essentially take out target number one, which is supposed to be Zelensky and his family. So it's going to be very interesting to see the way that this plays itself out. They're meeting, but what are they really meeting for? Because it shows what's going on, that, yeah, you're in here, we're here. This is our country. It's not yours. You're coming in here. You need to leave. And Putin is not going to leave. He's just not. He's not going to leave. He's not going to leave because if he leaves, he fails. If he leaves, look at all the damage he's doing to his economy. Over the weekend, SWIFT jumped back in. SWIFT is because the sanctions, as the best way to describe them last week, were tepid. And they still haven't sanctioned everything they could. Understand that a good majority, 5% of the world's oil comes from Russia. And for Europe, almost 40% of their natural gas comes from Russia. So they haven't hit some of those things yet. But going after SWIFT today has caused hell.
The argument that sanctions are a necessary hardship that Russians must undergo in this great war with the West, well, I don't know, a lot of people might believe that, but I think once people are aware of what they could be missing in the future, it's actually not so easy to make that argument anymore. This isn't the Soviet Union anymore. This is the 21st century. Russians enjoy living a modern life, and to say to them that they're going to have to go without, I just don't think that that's going to go down very well.
No, and they are going out, and they're protesting big time. They're letting their voices be heard in an area in a way that we don't realize, right? Understanding what's coming for them when they have their voices heard against Putin and his people.
Authorities have always kept a close eye on people, but Moscow really does feel more and more like the capital of a police state. Riot police have flooded the center of town following days of protests across the country. More than 5,000 have now been arrested in anti-war protests.
Yeah. Do you think they got a ticket? No. Where are they? Nobody knows. Nobody knows. If you really want to get them, you'd start burning everything down. You'd start rummaging through the Apple store. Things like that. He's got a lot of issues. He does. And hopefully these issues continue to, for all intents and purposes, make his life a living hell. But that's where the desperation comes in. And desperate times in his world, if he's not all there, and I think that is being discussed more and more on a daily basis, his isolation from the time COVID came till this last several weeks has made it seem like he is not the same person that he once was. That he's kind of out there in a way that makes you feel like he could do something stupid. He could do something crazy. And that's the fear, I think, of a lot of people. And that's why you would like to think that there is somebody there that would say no. Somebody there that would say, this isn't going to happen. Somebody there that has the cojones enough to say, no, this is done. You're not going to drop this bomb. You're not going to do that. How does that affect us here? All that being said, gas.
Prices at the pump could continue to increase here and across the country. California leads the nation when it comes to these prices. For premium gas, you're paying $6.35. For regular gas, you're paying $6.31. And while the prices may be a lot lower in other parts of the country, we could all be impacted by the Russia-Ukraine crisis. What experts are predicting, it's $4 a gallon average in the U.S. in just a matter of weeks.
Yeah. So today I paid $3.90 or $3.89. Gas this morning, at least Brent crude, was up over $100. It's currently where it's sitting. So you can expect gas prices to continue to move in an upward trajectory over the next several days, but it has a ton of ramifications, not just on what it cost for your vehicle to get filled up. Think about places like California example, right? It's so much more expensive there, as we already know. Well, think about how much travels through that port to get to many of these places. Think about the cost of doing business rising. That means the person that's doing business with product A is going to be receiving it. They're going to be paying more. They have to put something together, then send it off to whoever does it for the next phase of it. Before it gets to you, all of those shipping costs are going to go up. And it's not just the shipping cost. Many things that are made from petroleum, that's going to hit you in the pocketbook as well. So it's not just a single thing about, well, gas is a bit more expensive. Somebody the other day hit me up and said, well, gas is so much more expensive in other places. I'm like, yes, but we are a different nation. We are a nation that loves our vehicles. We are a nation that uses our vehicles. We're a nation that chooses to drive far more than anybody else. That's the reality of it. So we don't have public transport outside of New York that really works well. Few places are okay. But so many of these places, even here, you got to drive to there to get to the place where you're going to take your public transport. So think about that. I mean, what's $4.50, $5 gas do? Does a lot. Hit you in the pocketbook. Hit you at the grocery store. Could get ugly. Ugly. And in a time when you know that you have what? You still have these battles going on here because we've got huge midterms. You're the president and you're worried about a recession. You've got the dollar isn't worth what it once was. We've got energy issues. We've got COVID masking issues that are now finally seeming to be moving away, but this has been a nightmare for a lot of people for quite a while in the way that local governments and states have handled this. And if we head into a recession, that is not a win if you're the president. So it's walking that fine line. And tomorrow night's got a State of Union, right? So this is his first State of the Union. And it's going to be a lot about what we're seeing. It is. I'm sure there's going to be other stuff in there. He's going to talk about his SCOTUS nominee, Ketanji Brown Jackson. He's going to talk about, breaking the barrier there. He's going to talk about a lot of different things. Climate change is going to be one of them, I'm sure. And speaking of climate change, while all this is going on, the UN, well, they got they're tackling climate change still. Yeah, what? Oh, yeah.
Today's IPCC report is an atlas of human suffering and a damning indictment of failed climate leadership.
Failed climate leadership.
This report reveals how people on the planet are getting clobbered by climate change.
UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres warns
many ecosystems are at the point of no return now.
The 270 authors who wrote the IPCC report conclude that humans cannot stop climate change but can slow the impact. They warn that right now anywhere from 2.6 to 3.3 billion people live in areas described as highly vulnerable. They're calling for broader adaptation of green technology.
Yeah, but that takes a while. We still live in now. We can plan for tomorrow, but we live in now. And that's the thing. And for us, we got to look around and say, we have all of this oil, we've got all this natural gas. Why are we not producing more here? And why are we not telling the people that are green, hey, we need to get to a much cleaner burning fuel, cleaner in a way of energy that we can, that is sustainable, right? Right? That it's stable, that we can trust that it's going to work every time we go to our car or we turn on the lights. We need that. All that being said, we're trying to follow the rules, and we do very little in actually reducing anything, all the while hurting ourselves and then having to pay a lot more for oil and gas to people that hate us. And those people, by the way, they're not caring about the climate. So maybe the best bet is to produce more here. And it's not an overnight. You could turn the switch on, but it's not going to be an overnight fix. But we've moved away from it, and it's stupid. It really is. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Tweet at us. Text the program. Calibrate. Losing weight can be hard, and sometimes so frustrating because you think no matter what I do, I don't seem to lose weight. Well, you know what? You may be fighting a willpower thing, you think, when reality is it's your body. It's just nature, your biology. That's why Calibrate's different. It's a comprehensive doctor-guided metabolic reset program that gives you sustainable results through lifestyle changes and FDA-approved medication. You pair that with lifestyle changes that aren't crazy, right? They're not asking you, you can have, one Ritz cracker and a piece of tuna every 6 days. No, it's about actual lifestyle changes that are sustainable to improve your metabolic health. You're going to get one-on-one video coaching, in-app tracking. It's easy to do. Plus, medical care, including a video doctor visit. It took them 20 years to put this together, but it's FDA-approved medication. On average, Calibrate's early members lost well over 15% of their body weight, and they're losing more and more as we speak. Simple and easy to do, right into your lifestyle. It's not hard. Right now, join Calibrate. Get $50 off the one-year metabolic reset when you use promo code CHAD at joincalibrate.com. That's promo code CHAD at joincalibrate.com to save $50. Joincalibrate.com. Promo code CHAD. Chad Benson Show.
Wanna be, boys? Give me a bowl of chili with plenty of peppers.
One Mexican heartburn. Why don't you mugs grow up?
The Chad Benson Show, where independent, a la carte thinkers have a seat at the table and a voice in the dialogue.
I'll have what she's having.
This is Chad Benson.
I've been dreaming about this my whole life. With no new major releases, this weekend's box office top 5 is exactly like last weekend's. Uncharted holds first with a further $23.2 million, followed by Dog, Spider-Man No Way Home, Death on the Nile, and Jackass Forever. Oh my God! Rock band Foo Fighters horror comedy Studio 666 bows in 8th, but everyone's just marking time until Friday. I'm vengeance. That's when The Batman debuts nationwide, already tracking to open with well over $100 million.
Yeah, so The Batman. A couple of my buddies who've seen it, one of which he worked on it, he said it's a horror movie as much as it is a comic book movie. So it's definitely not that campy kind of fun. Suicide Squad, like you think of that, or the DC world, and you go over and you look at the Justice League. This is, he said, dark. Think more, almost horror-esque, and think more about kind of what we saw with the Joker. I said, all right, it'll be interesting. It's going to do well, though. It's going to do well. That it is. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Tweet at us, text the program. Major League Baseball may not have at least a full season this year.
The two sides negotiated inside Roger Dean Stadium for more than 6 hours on Sunday, and though one source said the talks were productive on a variety of subjects, nothing really got accomplished. It means to meet the deadline, almost every single core economic issue at stake in the CBA would have to be worked out in the final day. The league previously stated that if no deal is made by Monday, they'll begin canceling regular season games. A deal isn't likely to happen, which means neither is opening day on March 31st.
Yep. So today is going to look interesting. If this doesn't get done, what's it look like? Out here in Arizona where I live, we have spring training. Last year's spring training, there were like 2 games in when coronavirus shut everything down. So there was nothing. There was no, so this is like the second year in a row, the reality of not having, the real kind of Major League Baseball here. And it is going to hurt local economies a lot. And it's interesting. It is, because this isn't a strike. This is a lockout.
Both sides met face-to-face this past weekend in South Florida. Still no agreement, and now players are deciding whether to stick around and meet again today or head home. Still, opening day is set for March 31st.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting. I'm thinking no. I'm thinking there's going to be, I don't want to say a lockout, but like during the season, but I don't think they get a deal done until it gets close to opening day. And then the scramble will be on. That's what I think. Tomorrow night is the State of the Union. Biden's going to give us first State of the Union. And do you remember what was going to happen, right? There's supposed to be this massive trucker protest, kind of like what we saw in Canada, heading out there.
Organizers of the Freedom Convoy, a collection of big rig truckers from across the country gearing up for a massive demonstration in Washington this coming week, may not have the strength in numbers as planned. The group's Facebook page says a contingent of truckers that left California last week bound for D.C. had only 5 trucks by the time they got to Vegas. And another convoy out of Pennsylvania fell apart over fears of arrest and getting stuck in rush hour traffic. Still, organizers say there are at least 2 other massive turnouts with truckers ready to protest COVID restrictions and other issues.
Yeah, but now with COVID restrictions being lifted, and the mandates are getting close to being lifted, even in places like New York, the reality is 4 months ago you could see it. Now, is there really a need? Probably not. Probably not. So I don't think we'll see it. And as we've said here, we've been very, very, very consistent on this. If you stop traffic for your whatever it is protest, even if I agree with that protest, you've made me late, I'm not happy, I'm not going to support your protest. Being honest. Being honest. Chad Benson Show.
This is the Chad Benson Show. Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
Will there be peace sooner rather than later? I doubt it, but they are sitting down and talking. Ukraine and Russia. We'll see what that actually looks like. I mean, what do you invaded us. You want us to give you guarantees that we will never join NATO. Based on the fact that you've done this, and based on the fact that you are who you are, Putin, why should we give you any guarantees about anything? Because you're awful. Nobody believes a word you say. So I don't know what this is going to accomplish, but there is peace talks going on. And I just look at this and think, they're in trouble. And it is starting to really scare him. And starting to upset him. And that's where, to me, is the scariest part. Is a guy who may be a little unhinged, who thought the West wouldn't do anything, and now everybody's giving him weapons, even the Germans, who were originally like, we'll give you guys some helmets. They're giving them weapons. You've got a blockade going on. They are now enacting the SWIFT, and I call it the swiftest move that you can do when it comes to banking, which is crushing the ruble, sending their interest rates to the roof. 20% is their interest rates. It is crushing them financially, and it doesn't look like the Russian people are all about this, because I don't think they buy a word of anything that he says. And, of course, you had the battle of the misinformation, disinformation. But what happens is it's somebody who maybe isn't playing with a full deck anymore. Maybe is gotten to the point where he believes that he could do no wrong. And when it starts to go south, he becomes more of a petulant child. And on the way to being a petulant child, is he going to do something that is going to break something so bad that everybody has to get involved? That's the worry for me when it comes to Putin.
We saw him publicly humiliating his closest advisors the other day. So as these missteps add up, military slowed down, not doing well, huge economic pressure, isolating from his closest advisor, that's what's most concerning. Nobody there to prevent a catastrophic misstep.
And that's the thing I think a lot of people are worried about. And speaking of the quote-unquote economy, they decided over the weekend to essentially kick the Russian banks off of SWIFT. SWIFT is the thing you must have if you want to bank. Every transaction, all of these things are done through the messaging SWIFT system. Securities, just everything. So this is an absolute crushing on their economy that people are worried, hey, we did some stuff last week, but we didn't really go after everything. And one of the big things that everybody was clamoring about was, why aren't you heading them with SWIFT? Why aren't you going hard at the SWIFT thing, taking them off the banking network and making them desperate? Well, now they have, and it's going to be nightmare for the Russian people.
The argument that sanctions are a necessary hardship that Russians must undergo in this great war with the West, well, I don't know, a lot of people might believe that, but I think once people are aware of what they could be missing in the future, it's actually not so easy to make that argument anymore. This isn't the Soviet Union anymore. This is the 21st century. Russians enjoy living a modern life, and to say to them that they're going to have to go without, I just don't think that that's going to go down very well.
No, it's not. And the thing about Russia, it is a modern world. I mean, St. Petersburg, who just lost the Champions League final, Moscow, these are modern European cities for all intents and purposes. They are. And Moscow is one of the most expensive cities on the globe. They're used to, back in the day when, Levi's were unheard of over there. When I was a kid, I played behind the wall, if you will. And it was really eerie and weird to see. Man, all the stuff we have comparatively to everybody else is amazing. They're used to all of the stuff now. They're used to traveling. They're used to the the Pinterest and the Instagram and the Facebook and that life is so much different than I think a lot of people think it is. Their middle class is big, and their middle class is freaking out.
It's really important not to oversimplify society in this country. It's not just that the super rich somehow live in St. Petersburg and Moscow and the rest of the country is full of peasants. There is quite a developed middle class in this country. There are people all over Russia who like going on foreign holidays, for instance. Many Russians like going to Turkey or to Egypt. They don't necessarily have a lot of money, but they're just regular people. And yes, all these things are going to start to be much, much more difficult.
Yeah. It's going to get ugly for them. And this is what it's about. There's some 5,000 people have been arrested protesting in and throughout Russia. And this is the cost of doing business now. This is what they want. Now, again, it goes back to that worrisome thing about him being a petulant child. And being a petulant child, you do worry about him doing something over the weekend, challenging once again his generals when it came to alerting his generals, saying basically, take it up, ramp up the nuclear, because something could go wrong and we need to protect ourselves. The look on their face was like, what? Like, you're serious? Oh, he's serious.
What this really shows here is that Mr. Putin is becoming even more desperate. It's showing that his military progress is failing on the ground, that he has to resort to this kind of threat. But he has threatened us in the past. We should probably take him seriously.
Yeah. And that part of that is the misstep thing we talked about earlier. Desperate, angry, defiant, a petulant child. Could he overreach and do something stupid? Yes. Hence the reason over the weekend, NATO decided to somewhat activate its forces as a precaution in the event that something could potentially happen. I mean, this is a guy, think about this last week. We didn't have a chance to talk about this. But last week on the meeting on Friday, both Finland and Sweden participated. And these were two nations that were thinking about it, but not made a decision, leaning in some ways. And after all this took place, they said, I think it's more evident that this might be something we need to do. And he said to both of them, if you guys try to join NATO, I will invade you. I mean, that's who we're dealing with at this point in time. So sanctions, fighting in the street, a continual battle that is going to be raging, I think, for quite a while, until he decides he is going to bring in more boots on the ground and a larger support force of bombings, to make it untenable, to blow a good portion of the country up. That's what you have. But one of the things I found to be interesting, and more people have talked about this, is maybe they're not very good. What? But they're a modern fighting force. But maybe they're not very good.
The Russian military seems incompetent. It's shocking how bad they are. They aren't able to execute the very basics at the tactical or operational level. So this may lead to some desperation.
Again, that's the scary part. Desperation. Desperate times, people do desperate things. And not to look like a stooge, because he's now put himself in a position where if he tries to back out of this and he gets nothing but body bags, which they're not even doing. They brought crematoriums to the battlefield, so the Russian people didn't see body bags coming home. This is one of those situations where he could do something stupid. Doesn't mean it's a nuke, but it definitely could be a much bigger bomb. And we've talked about the Moab, which is the mother of all bombs that we've had, that we've dropped. We dropped in Afghanistan, I think in 2013. They have supposedly the father of all bombs. And the amount of damage it could do, say, in a city square would be huge. Even though a good portion of people have evacuated, it's still, that's the desperation fear I think people have, especially if you're thinking, he may not all be there, is what I'm thinking. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Tweet at us, text the program. All that being said, tomorrow night, State of the Union. It's the first one for Biden. I wonder what people are thinking.
The president is going into this speech in a very difficult position. Our latest poll shows he has just a 37% approval rating. That is the lowest point of his presidency. Now, here on the Hill, I can tell you they are already beefing up security for this amid some concerns that a truck convoy may try to disrupt the night. They've already put back up that big temporary fencing around the Capitol, and the Pentagon has authorized up to 700 members of the National Guard. They are taking no chances.
No. It sounds like that thing, by the way, is petering out. I don't know what do you think the truckers are going to do? Are they going to convoy straight into the Capitol and run everybody over? They're not. But Biden's got a lot that he's going to have to deal with, and this is another thing, the Ukrainian thing. This is one of many things as he heads into a midterm in his first year, and think about how important it is for him. If he and the Democrats lose the House and the Senate, he's going to spend the next 2 years essentially in a lame duck situation, where the Democrats may put stuff forth that'll all be blocked by the Republicans. There'll be then the flip about of let's investigate the people that were investigating all the investigation of Trump, because you have that factor. There's a lot that goes into this. Then you've got inflation. You've got Afghanistan mess. You've got the border here that's a mess. Of course, obviously, the Ukraine. It's not a good time right now. It isn't. And then COVID. And COVID has been, a nightmare for everybody. All that being said, the way that it was handled, the mandates, the frustration, didn't bring the country together and didn't wipe COVID out. He didn't. The reality is COVID is as we release, as we get rid of all these mask mandates and a lot of things across the country in the blue states that haven't done it in the big cities, that has zero to do with people and all to do with Omicron. Omicron has been the greatest probably, vaccine that we've seen. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Tweet at us, text the program. A lot of stuff still to squeeze into. Oh, so much stuff still to get to, kids, including some woke medicine. Where do you hear this? I just find this fascinating. I do. MyPillow right now is everything you need. The cheapest price of all for MyPillows right now. Go for as low as $19.99. They've got the mattress toppers. You got yourself the My Slippers, the Giza Dream Sheets, everything that you could think of. They've got on their deepest discounts ever. Right now, you go to MyPillow.com. Use the promo code Benson right there. For every order that you do, guess what? He's going to send you out a free book about his life, Mike Lindell's life. What was that about? Right? He went from a crack addict to the CEO of MyPillow. It's a great book to have. Learn about how overcoming obstacles And so with any order, you can go there and get that right now. Go to MyPillow.com. Use the promo code Benson. MyPillow.com, promo code Benson. MyPillow.com, promo code Benson. Chad Benson Show.
I can't take it anymore!
Well, get over it. It's time to forge a new path with your very own political cartographer, Chad.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, ignition, liftoff.
Now it's time to find out what's trending.
What's trending? Yeah, what does that mean? I mean something, right? Like it's trending on the old intranet. What's trending?
Let us take a peek, find out what's trending. Start in Twitter. Twitter is, well, Ukraine and Russia begin talks in Belarus today. Peace. Russian oil prices are going up. Russia's been cut off from using essentially dollars, which is the thing that people bank with. SWIFT, that is the banking messaging system. It's a co-op. They didn't want to be, when they set it up, they didn't want one place to singularly have access and control of a system. So they set it up as a co-op, and SWIFT is how all the messaging and everything is done when it comes to banking. If you don't have this, you're pretty screwed. And they no longer have it. They do not. COVID-19 restrictions, mask restrictions are being lifted across the country. Chances are sooner rather than later. Mandates for the vaccine may also fall by the wayside. Oh, my goodness. State of the Union tomorrow night. Head over to Google. Daylight savings. Freezing the clock. Great article today in the Washington Post. That's trending. People looking at it. Is it time to push for a permanent daylight savings? SAG Awards last night. You guys will be happy to know. I don't know who won. And I didn't see any of the movies. So that's a win, I think. You know what I'm really into right now? Tell you guys this little to the side over here. Vikings Valhalla. Been watching that, right? I watched Reacher all last week. And then the other night, I wasn't feeling good. I had bad toothache, horrific toothache. I said, oh, well, what's on? I'll watch one episode of Vikings. I've only got a couple episodes left. Great show. Steven Seagal is trending as well. And the reason is that really him training with the forces of Russia? No, I don't think so. It's very... Oh, so here's the thing. If you guys don't know, he's close to Putin. And he lives in Moscow. And he's a sympathizer. So he's also the Belarusian leader, Lukashenko. Apparently, and him are pals as well. I think they shared a carrot or something a while ago. But he got honorary Russian citizenship a few years ago, and that whole thing is insane. Just walking in Moscow, you're like, is that Steven Seagal? Oh yeah, that's him. Okay. Weird, but all right. 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Tweet at us. Text the program. Major League Baseball is also trending. Today's the drop-dead date when it comes to having a full season for Major League Baseball. Probably isn't going to happen. They're far apart on negotiations. Kind of a lockout here. This one's on the owners. So we'll see if there is going to be a full Major League Baseball season. I'm thinking no. And I'm thinking a lot of people are like, yeah, that's fine. 100 games would be good. 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Tweet, text, Chad Benson Show.
The Chad Benson Show.
Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
That right there was the Russian Navy giving orders to people in Snake Island. Right? Remember this last week. Snake Island. Small island that is about 100 miles off the shore of Crimea that the people of Ukraine still controlled. And famously, they told the Russian Navy, if they said give up or else we're going to destroy you, they told them, should we tell them to F off? He's like, yeah, tell them, F off. And then it was over. Well, apparently not. First thing that dies always in war, the first casualty is the truth. Apparently they are alive and well. They are held captive right now by the Russians on Snake Island, which is good. It's a 42-acre island. They cut off all communications. Barrel gunships and airstrikes open fire on them. But they are now being held hostage, if you will, by the invaders. It's the best way to cry. I mean, they're invaders. You guys are invading, and you're going to occupy. That's the best way to describe it. All that being said, your invasion is not going over very well at home. And quite frankly, everybody's starting to laugh at you because you guys are not really doing a good job for this war. It's a joke. I think a lot of people thought this was going to be over quick. When we've had our buddy Mike Lyons on, I think we're going to have him on again tomorrow, military analyst. He was talking about the fact that they, at best, they may have shot 300 missiles. At best. And they only brought 190,000 soldiers. But like he said, those are a good majority of those are not fighting soldiers. We've heard it over and over. Steve Gainyard put it best today when he said this about the actual troops themselves, which I found to be very interesting.
The Russian military seems incompetent. It's shocking how bad they are. They aren't able to execute the very basics at the tactical or operational level. So this may lead to some desperation.
Yeah, he's president of Avascent Global Advisors, and he deals with this kind of stuff. I mean, he was, he was deputy assistant director for plans, programs, and operations, Bureau of Politics and Military Affairs. I mean, this guy, he kind of understands that they're kind of looking like they're incompetent. When you're, it's you know what I've always equated this to, and this is silly but true. There's a certain sense of, like, a lot of these Russians have no idea why they're fighting. Like, they're like, you were told us for years that these are our brothers and sisters, and now we're going in. Some people were told it was just an exercise. They're not sold for the cause, whatever that cause is. This cause, they're not sold for. And you could see and hear from people on the streets. And the other sense is everybody there is ready to die to defend at all cost everything. They're ready to defend at all cost every single thing. From 16 to 60. There's a guy the other day, I saw him, he's like 80 years old. They handed him a gun. He had no idea what to do with it. He had zero idea what to do with the damn thing. But he's ready. He's ready. And, they're now inviting, essentially mercenaries from all over the globe. One of the reasons I think they're bringing in the Chechen squads is these guys are battle tested. They fought with ISIS. And they fought against the Russians at one time. So you're bringing in people that are battle tested. Belarus now looks like they're going to get involved, even though they're having talks there right now. The whole thing is bizarre. But I just don't think they're in it. They're not in it. Because I don't feel like their heart is in it. Because they've been told for the last 20-some years, this over here, this Ukraine, these are our brothers and sisters. This is at one time the heartbeat of Russia. And now we have to go in and fight them? I don't think they're buying it. I don't. 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Tweet at us. All that being said, tomorrow night, the President of the United States will have his first State of the Union. He's got a lot of things to worry about. First of all, we know that his numbers are in the toilet. And he's got issues here still at home, in particular when it comes to inflation, the economy. We've got a fracturing that has been going on for the last several years in our politics and the divide. He was supposed to be a great uniter, and he's done anything but that. And tomorrow night, he's going to have a chance to do what they do on that one night where they're going to come out and either everybody cheers or they all sit there and do nothing. If they show up, right? Remember, I'm not showing up for Trump, all that childness. Everybody wore white, wasn't it, one night? Remember that, too? That was hilarious. Oh, my goodness. We're children at times.
The president, we are told, is likely going to highlight the steps he's taken to fight back against Putin's invasion and to support the Ukrainian people. He's also likely to tout the united response that we have seen from the West. But the president is also going to have to tackle the many challenges here at home, everything from inflation to rising gas prices and the pandemic. The president's also likely to try and hit on his big agenda items, much of which, as you know, remains stalled here on the Hill.
Yeah. And he knows going into this election, he faces a potential of seeing him lose the Senate and the House. And in doing that, everything he's going to want to get done is dead in the water. And then there'll be investigation after investigation because we live in a world now where, you know what? You investigated us. Now we're going to investigate you. You still have the coronavirus, which thank goodness it's endemic now, not pandemic. Cooler, calming heads are trying to prevail. And I hope that is going to continue. Even places like New York are saying, all right, we've had enough.
New York was once the epicenter of this COVID-19 pandemic, but now Governor Kathy Hochul says that new cases have dropped 98% and pediatric hospitalizations have dropped 80% since the peak of the Omicron surge. She says in light of that and her conversations with teachers and school officials, as well as that new CDC guidance out on Friday, she has decided to lift the school mask mandate statewide by this Wednesday.
Yeah. And you're also seeing and hearing more and more people, even on the left, who said, all right, we've had enough. We've had enough over the weekend. Ruben Gallego, right here from Arizona, was on with Bill Maher talking about it's enough. It's time to move on.
Biden's first State of the Union speech is coming up. What do you think is the State of the Union?
I think this country is on a recovery. We have to admit things have not been great. People really have felt this kind of overwhelming kind of grayness because of COVID. But we're coming out of it. Unfortunately, I'm here probably the last day where we still have to wear masks. Right. But people are going to feel, I think, a little more upbeat.
Well, they have to wear masks.
They have to wear as well, yeah. We're the elites. We're the elites. We don't have to wear masks.
Exactly.
Yeah, making fun of that. Yeah, that's true. That's true. And he says this, and this is what I've been saying for a while. Remember, the beginning of this, and we have learned with this thing, through this thing, around this thing, and eventually we're above this thing called COVID.
We've beaten COVID. Time to take off the mask. Time we're going to get back to life. Let's open up our businesses and let's everyone go back to having as normal as a life as we can.
I agree.
It's okay. We have moved on from COVID. I think there's some people that are still afraid of doing that, but we can't continue living this life. This is not the way Americans are meant to live, and I think we can sense that right now.
You're preaching my prayer book, brother.
Yeah. It's not the way that we're supposed to be living. And people are frustrated. That, even today, I think, hopefully this week Jack gets his mask off at school, outdoors, indoors. I saw some schools in California had just decided we're not listening to anything that the powers that be are pushing out there because this is ridiculous. You're seeing it in other parts of the country. And we got our mask off here. The only place I wear a mask is at work. In the last couple of days, I was like, I can't do this anymore. I just can't. You know what? I've gotten my shot. I've got it. I've got boosted. I'm over it. And then finally Friday, because I'm like, you have to, right? Well, you don't have. No, I mean, at that point, if you were telling people they have to wear a mask and you're ignoring the science, shouldn't you essentially be the people now that we bring all of our healthcare needs to? Oh, I don't think that's true. Just saying. 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Tweet at us. Text the program. Love hearing from you. The other big thing that is going to be taking front and center. So you got the economy, you got the rising, energy prices, all of those things. Schools, right? And the battle for schools is going to be real. whether it's critical race theory, well, nobody calls it that, right? I mean, it's like that's what they've used for years. But just because it doesn't say it's CRT doesn't mean it's not some form of CRT. I think that is going to be a big battle that's coming, and we saw that in Virginia. And that's evident that isn't going anywhere anytime soon, right? Then you've got bills throughout the states, whether it's trans sports bills or LGBTQ bills. Is there a plus in there? I think there's a plus in there. You got a lot of that stuff, and all of it is going to be wrapped up. And my thing is, too, is if this thing is seasonal, as some people are thinking it might be, what are Democratic governors and the party in itself going to do if we see upticks as we head towards voting time? That's going to be interesting because you know how people get, right? Like it's, oh, God, and oh, no, we can't now because they're voting. And if people go back and mask and restrictions start to come back and the party that is running this thing at that time in your area is pushing hard. We're not talking a place like California, New York, where it's all blue. They don't want to come out of their mask. I mean, you could tell them today there's no more masking. A good majority of people are still going to wear a mask in certain areas because they're insane. They're not living in a world of reality. But don't think for a moment this thing, for some people who are going to be in tight races, if it starts to come back and city officials and state officials start to push for more, vaccine mandates and masking mandates, that they're going to get pushback even from Democrats who are going to be worried that, hey, I don't want to lose because of a mask. Oh, yeah, I could see that. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Tweet at us. Switzerland, what are you doing? Swiss President Ignacio Cassis said on Sunday it was very probable that Switzerland would follow the EU line when it came to Russia and the sanctions, and they have done that. Switzerland is famous for cocoa, watches, and neutrality. And they're not neutral on this one, which I think is surprising some people. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Tweet at us. I actually have a Swiss watch on now. Let you guys know that. It's got a nice movement. It's got an Edo movement. If you guys know what watches are, it's a very nice movement. It's a very nice watch. I'm really into watches. It's my jam. Watches and lizards. I don't care about cars. Watches and lizards. Weirdo. If I could get a Bulgari or an F. Pigeon that also happens to be a lizard, that'd be awesome. It was my dream. That's my dream. You're a weirdo. Car Shield. 24/7 roadside assistance, a rental car for free while your car's in the shop. Why would you want Car Shield, Chad? Let me tell you why you want Car Shield. First of all, in a day and age where car prices are going up, in a day and age where not only are car prices going up, but used car prices through the roof, many of you listening right now, you don't have a warranty. So why not protect yourself, protect your wall, protect your car, get yourself Car Shield. So in the event that check engine light comes on, you're protected. You get to choose the shop you take it to. They get them paid directly. It is simple and easy. They can handle the paperwork, the expensive payment. What do? Pay a small deductible and you move on with your life. That's the beauty of Car Shield. Over 1 million drivers been helped by Car Shield. Why not be one of them? They got plans to fit anybody's budget. Right now, check it out. An extra 10%. Carshield.com/Benson. That's what you get off any plan. Carshield.com/Benson saves you 10%. Carshield.com/Benson. A deductible may apply. Chad Benson Show.
Deep states? No. Deep doo-doo? Yeah. The Chad Benson Show.
So last night they had an award show, as they tend to do. It's the time of year when the awards roll out. And, of course, we live in a world now where you have to make everything about you. Boy, did some of them do it. Scottish actor, who I actually enjoy, Brian Cox, who's on Succession and a lot of other things. I know him really from Super Troopers, but whatever. You guys do what you do. Seemed to make it about him last night and his profession.
in the Ukraine. It's truly, truly awful. Particularly awful in terms of people, particularly in our profession. The president of Ukraine was a comic, and we should respect that for him. And to come to the presidency was amazing. The thing that's really distressed me is what's happening in Russia. My fellow actors and actresses and performers, they are told under pain of high treason that they cannot say a word about Ukraine. And I think we should really join in celebrating them and hoping that they can actually make a shift, as I believe they can. Thank you. Thank you.
I don't think they're going to. I mean, some of them might. But 5,000 people have been arrested in Russia that have been out in the streets protesting. That's a lot of people. It's not like here, right? Where you go and you protest, maybe you break some stuff. It's not like that. It's they're out there protesting. People roll up. They throw them in the back of a wagon, and away they go. Where they go, nobody knows. Oh, yeah. So, again, it's the actors must be like, God, we care so much. Why does nobody pay attention to us? We're trying so hard to care. It's good that you care. It is. It's not bad that you care. But it just felt, that to me felt a little just so about him. Russia's losing a lot of things, including maybe the chance to play in the World Cup.
FIFA ordering Russia to play matches without its flag and anthem at neutral venues. But European nations are criticizing the decision not to expel Russia from the World Cup. Poland's Football Association calling the move totally unacceptable. FIFA says Russia could still be excluded from competitions if the war in Ukraine continues to escalate. Inez de la Quatera, ABC News, Paris.
They just lost the big curling thing, because I didn't know that curling was actually done outside of the Olympics. So they lost. I guess there was a big thing that was going to go on in Russia somewhere. They have now pulled the Russian Grand Prix, the European Soccer Championship that was supposed to take place in St. Petersburg this year. And now both Sweden and Poland, who are supposed to play them in the next round of World Cup qualifying, has said, no, we're not going to do it. FIFA's come out and done this. I wouldn't be surprised if they end up stripping them all together, as they should. As they should at this point. 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show's your Twitter. Tweet, text. Love hearing from every single one of you. Check out all of our social media. Fun stuff there. 'Tis the Chad Benson Show.
This is the Chad Benson Show. Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
Best quote over the weekend, maybe some of the best I've heard in a while. Love it. Zelensky, president of the Ukraine, says when Americans offered him a ride to get him out of there, says, I don't need a ride, I need ammo. This is not going the way that Putin and his pals thought it would go. Today, it's starting to affect them financially. They're getting hit straight in the grundle because, yes, the sanctions are hitting hard, hard, hard. And the Russians are going to have to accept the fact that now with SWIFT being a part of the sanctions, essentially making it impossible for banks in Russia to do any business, that means any imports, they can't pay them. Oh. Any exports, sorry, can't get you paid. They're going to have to find a different way of doing it. And it is going to, well, make them uncomfortable. It's going to make them very uncomfortable. And that was the goal, right? Like, SWIFT should have been a part of this from the outset. That should have been it. Like, SWIFT should have been the thing. Soft targets, whatever you want to call it, that should have been the number one thing that we hit first. But Europe was struggling because they're not quite sure what to do. They got the energy issue over there. By the way, SWIFT is one of the things that was big. The other side is sanctions for energy. They still sell energy. And, they're trying to figure out, Europe, how do we go hard at Putin for doing what he did? And at the same time, you've got to turn and say, I have to also understand that my people here, they need gas, oil, etc., etc. That's still out there.
Energy sanctions are certainly on the table. We have not taken those off, but we also want to do that and make sure we're minimizing the impact on the global marketplace.
There you go. And that's one of the big issues right now with the sanctions. So SWIFT was the first way that they went, and people there are going to feel it big time.
We've already seen in the last week, essentially a bit of a run on the banks. Something like $10 billion has already been taken out by regular Russian people who are worried that the ruble is crashing. When you go into a restaurant here, they will ask you to make sure that you've got cash with you because they're worried about having to make a kind of financial transaction with a card. So this is absolutely having an impact here.
Yeah. So you got to have cash. The ruble is worthless. And I do mean worthless. It is collapsed big time. If you were to go back, say, a year, it's the highest it's been around 16 cents to every buck. It has gotten under a penny today. So you can't do transactions. You heard that. That's huge. You go into a store and you want to pay for something, you can't even pay for it with a card, even though you may have the money, because they can no longer accept and get that money from banking institutions. Can't happen. That is the power of SWIFT. Should have been on the at the beginning. Why it wasn't, again, I think a lot of people are trying to figure out, even Russia today, found out that even Switzerland, that is neutral, said, you know what? No, we're not going to do this. We're going to go with the EU and their sanctions. That's huge, right? Like Switzerland's like, hey, we're having fun here. It's Switzerland, super expensive. There's cuckoo clocks and watches, cocoa. People are yodeling. But even today they said, no, this is a bridge too far. And what do you have? You have a military operation that is going on that is a disaster if you're Putin, and it really is just ugly at this moment in time. They're having meetings today, but I don't know what's going to come out of it because they want no preconditions. They want them to leave. Putin is not walking away from this. It's too much of an embarrassment to see his soldiers leave the country after just a few days and basically had their ass handed to them.
We saw him publicly humiliating his closest advisors the other day. So as these missteps add up, military slowed down, not doing well, huge economic pressure, isolating from his closest advisor, that's what's most concerning. Nobody there to prevent a catastrophic misstep.
And that's the big thing, the misstep, because over the weekend, he started once again talking nukes, putting his people that are in charge with nukes in a position to be alerted and ready. And the looks on the faces of the generals was like, are you kidding me?
Vladimir Putin appearing to raise the stakes higher, ordering his strategic nuclear defense forces onto heightened alert, claiming it's in response to so-called aggressive statements from NATO. But it may still be early days in this invasion. Satellite photos show a massive Russian military convoy headed in the direction of Kyiv, stretching 3 miles long.
Yeah. It's not over, but they haven't done a good job. And I think that's the other side of it. If you're the world right now, he's got the most nuclear weapons. He's got like 5,400. I think we have 5,200. You know, the UK has 250. France has 235. Israel has 90 to 100. North Korea has like 5. China only has like 300. And then you got Pakistan and India. They each got about 160. So it's definitely the biggest player on the block, and the misstep is real. And I think that's the fear of a lot of people, because this doesn't look good for the mighty military that 20 years ago was in shambles. And over the last decade, they've tried to rebuild it. But this thing that's going on right now is not a good look.
The Russian military seems incompetent. It's shocking how bad they are. They aren't able to execute the very basics at the tactical or operational level. So this may lead to some desperation.
And that's the big thing. Miscalculation and desperation. A guy that looks around and says, I thought this was going to take 100 hours or less, and it hasn't. We moved 190,000 soldiers to the border, and we've moved several thousand in. Is our buddy Mike Lyons, military analyst, who comes on our show and joins us. He'll probably join us tomorrow. Talked about not all of those soldiers are soldiers as we would think. They're not gun-ready soldiers. But this armed force is young. I think some of them are confused at what's going on. They don't have supplies. That chain has been broken. Have you seen? I mean, we were laughing. Just see the guy, basically hook up the tank to his tow truck and take off with it. Guy's running behind it. It's like a skit. It's a hot mess. And it's going to get worse before it gets better. But the worry is, at some point in time, Putin, who's been isolated for 2 years, Putin, who is desperate to show the might of what mighty Russia can do, is going to eventually take a next step. Maybe not nuclear, but when you start to hear the nuclear word, you can't stop but think, could somebody who's that desperate get to a position where something could happen? This is Jens Stoltenberg, who is the head of NATO, talking about those threats.
It's a reckless and dangerous decision by Russia to put their nuclear forces on high alert. There's no reason for that. NATO is no threat to Russia. We don't see confrontation with Russia. NATO is a defensive alliance. What we do is to support Ukraine in their right to uphold their right to self-defense enshrined in the UN Charter. And of course, we are increasing the presence of NATO troops, US troops, or the European troops in the eastern part of the alliance to make sure that there's no room for any miscalculation in Moscow about our readiness to protect and defend all allies. But this is defensive, so there's no reason for Russia to increase the readiness of their nuclear forces.
But they did. And it shows you the desperation of watching his soldiers get beat by basically a ragtag, bunch of people. My buddy sent me a shirt that he got the other day. I thought it was hilarious. It was a picture of the Ukrainian flag, and it was a guy holding up a gun, and you could tell it was from the movie Red Dawn. It's all Wolverines! It kind of feels like what's going on there. If you've not seen Red Dawn, kind of like that. Except that could never happen here, but you get where I'm going. But a desperate man who may not all be there, who has access to the largest stockpile of nuclear weapons on the planet, that's not good. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Tweet at us. Text the program. Tomorrow night, the President of the United States going to do something.
The president is going into this speech in a very difficult position. Our latest poll shows he has just a 37% approval rating. That is the lowest point of his presidency. Now, here on the Hill, I can tell you they are already beefing up security for this amid some concerns that a truck convoy may try to disrupt the night. They've already put back up that big temporary fencing around the Capitol, and the Pentagon has authorized up to 700 members of the National Guard. They are taking no chances.
Yeah, but that truck convoy looks like it's already broke apart, so I wouldn't really worry too much about that. I don't know what you thought was going to happen. I don't know if you thought that they were going to drive in there and have a bunch of white supremacists or something, whatever it is. Because again, that's the crazy. Oh, it's everybody there is a white supremacist. No, they're pissed about mandates, but those mandates seem to be leaving right now. The masking thing seems to be leaving. New York today is going to do away with starting, was it tomorrow or Wednesday, with masking in schools, and it's just time to move on with our lives. That's a good thing. It's a fantastic thing. We need more of that common sense now as we go into the next phase, which is basically life. That's the next phase of coronavirus. Life. 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show's your Twitter. Tweet at us. Text the program. More on what's going on in Ukraine, including good news about the soldiers on Snake Island. Those are the guys last week who basically told the Ukrainians, they told the Russians, hey, F off when it came to surrendering. We'll talk about that. A lot of stuff still to squeeze in. Major League Baseball, is it done? Plus, over here, we have oligarchs. We have their kids. We have a lot of stuff that's theirs that isn't in banks. What should we do with them? The UN's worried about something. Sneak that in there as well. Rough Greens, ruffgreens.com/Chad. Did not feel great over the weekend. I had a bad tooth infection. That was not a tooth. It was actually my gums. I cut my gum really bad. It got infected. And did not feel good. But luckily for me, I have my dog Doodle. He hung out with me all weekend. It was Doodle, and little Charlie and I. And thanks to that, I wouldn't have Doodle if it wasn't for Rough Greens. I know that for a fact. I would have had to put him to sleep a long time ago. ruffgreens.com/Chad. Vitamins, minerals, probiotics, omega-369. Incredible supplement that goes on top of your dog's food that brings your dog's food to life and gives him or her the best life. It's been amazing, and the way that he has changed as far as his energy and the fact that you can pet him without his hips being, without him turning and biting you because his hips hurt so much is incredible. Try it for yourself. Don't take my word for it. Don't take their word for it. ruffgreens.com/Chad. You go there, going to get a free bag just for you. You cover the cost of shipping. ruffgreens.com/Chad or call 833-MY-DOG-77. Rough Greens makes any pet food better. Chad Benson Show.
I'm so tired. I'm exhausted.
If you're part of the politically exhausted majority, don't fear. Your time to be validated and rejuvenated is here. Wake up. It's the Chad Benson Show.
Well, at least we have the CDC. I mean, they haven't always been perfect, but the science changed.
How does science change? When I make a mistake at work, I don't get to say the science changed.
At least we had outdoor dining.
Oh, you mean when they built a smaller restaurant in the street? How was that outdoors? Oh, my God.
John Mulaney hosted Saturday Night Live. They took big swipes at COVID and the insanity of it all, especially the masking in schools, things of that nature. Thank the Lord that it looks like some of the madness is over, and that is good. As we move on to the next phase of COVID, like how all of these states and all these leaders, they roll out like some big thing. Here's the big thing. Live your life. That's it. If something gets crazy and chaotic and it gets nasty, we will address that when the time comes. But it's never just like that. It's got to be a measured, long, drawn-out process of we're going to do this or we're going to do this. But they said we should do this. Yes, we're no longer listening to them. But you told me if I don't listen to them, I'm not listening to science. Well, you're not listening to the science politically that we want you to listen to.
New York was once the epicenter of this COVID-19 pandemic, but now Governor Kathy Hochul says that new cases have dropped 98% and pediatric hospitalizations have dropped 80% since the peak of the Omicron surge. She says in light of that and her conversations with teachers and school officials, as well as that new CDC guidance out on Friday, she has decided to lift the school mask mandate statewide by this Wednesday.
Yeah. And again, there are people that are going to feel uncomfortable. I don't get it, but even around here, I mean, we no longer have the mandate, and there's still some people that feel uncomfortable and wear it. I'm like, it's a couple of people I know said, I'm going to wear it maybe forever. And I'm like, I don't get it, but you do you, right? That's the way it should be. You do you. Let everybody else do their thing. By the way, I could not wear it forever. Producer Phil, how bad was it flying with the mask? You flew with the mask. Producer Phil was on vacation last week. How bad was it?
I did. It wasn't that bad.
Yeah? Did you just have a drink in your hand the entire time?
Why, yes, I did.
There you go. That's what I was doing the last couple of days around here. I was walking around. I'd have a thing of water with me, and I had my mask down the whole time. If I had my mask, just made it look like, well, I got my mask, but I'm drinking. You can't stop drinking. I'm drinking. Come on now. 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Tweet at us. Text the program. Love hearing from all of you. Talk a little climate change. The UN is very worried about that. And there's the other thing going on in Ukraine. We'll touch on that as well. Would he ever use a nuclear weapon? Scaring people. Putin. Plus, tomorrow, State of the Union. It's Biden's first State of the Union. He's got a lot of things to address. And he's also going to try to play Yoda-like Jedi magic on people when it comes to our economy and where we're headed. Talk about that as well. Major League Baseball, an update on whether or not there'll be a season. Chad Benson Show.
The Chad Benson Show.
Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
Can't be all doom and gloom. New Yorker Juan Hernandez won his second lottery jackpot in 3 years. He claimed $10 million in a scratch-off game prize. That's right, $10 million. He says he's still trying to spend the other $10 million he won in 2019. So the first thing I'll do is pay off my mortgage on my house. That's what he said in 2019. Now, who knows? Whatever you want, brother. $6.51 million after government tax withholdings he'll take home. The odds of winning the $10 million deluxe scratch-off is 1 in 3.52 million. Right? That's the odds. The odds of winning it twice is like insane. Here's something. If it's only 1.352 million, how much are they? It's very interesting. How much is it? Are they $2? Are they $5? Are they $20? Because if they're like $2, then you could buy them all and you'd come out $3 million ahead. Hey, that's crazy. And then you could say then you could write everything off saying it was a tax write-off because that was your business now. That's weird, man. 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Tweet at us. Text the program. Love hearing from all of you. The Wagner Group, depending on how you want to call it, is a group of essentially mercenaries. They are an organization that, how should we say this? They're contractors who take part in various conflicts. Think of the Expendables, but not for the good guys. They have worked in places like Syria, Iraq. They've been part of the separatist forces in the Donbass region, as well as several other things like the Sudanese Civil War. Oh, no way. Yep. They've been part of the Western Libya campaign, as well as the Venezuela presidential crisis, insurgency in Cabo, the Mali war, the Russia-Ukrainian war, because they have been flown in on top of all of the other stuff you've got going on with the Chechen rebels. And apparently they're the ones they're bringing in to go after Zelensky, who over the weekend was asked about it was very interesting. They asked him, do you want to ride out, right? And he said no. I don't want to ride. I don't want to lift. I want ammo. And you got to hand it to the guy because, look, I've heard from several people, and our buddy Mike Lyons, who comes on the show, has said on a few occasions, look, here's the deal. It's great that he's staying there. You got to give him props for that. That's cojones, knowing full well that he is basically target number one and his wife and kids are target number two. I think if the world saw him put up against a wall and they executed him and his family, I think the world would crap freaking biscuits, and I think it changes everything. What have I said? Because you're killing heads of state, right? You're killing heads of state. On top of that, you are, kids, man. When people see dead kids, it changes a lot. It does. That being said, Belarus is supposed to get into the game, if you will, and they've already been in it because they've allowed the Russians to use all of their land and to come through Belarus because you've got their president who's a puppet. On top of that, you've gotten now the Chechens have sent some of their forces there, and now you've got this other group of people that are mercenaries that are aligned with the Russian government that may play a part in this, and they're specifically sent there to help the forces, but also to specifically target individuals. That's scary. That is. That's very, very scary. Putin feels a little irrational, sounds a little irrational. A couple weeks ago when him and Macron sat down, Macron said afterwards, if you remember that picture of him and they're at that table, it was almost like a farce. They're like 20 yards away from each other at the table, and they're the only two at the table. And, he talked about this doesn't seem to be the same guy that I met in 2018. There seems to be something a little bit wrong with him. Well, they had a phone call.
According to the French president's office, President Putin has agreed to halt all strikes against civilian targets and preserve civilian infrastructure. Russia will also secure main roads with particular focus on the road south of Kyiv. According to the Kremlin, Putin told Macron Russia is open to negotiations with Ukrainian representatives and expects talks will lead to the desired results, though a settlement is possible only if Russia's security demands are met in full. The two leaders agreed to speak again in the coming days.
Yeah. So basically, if he gets everything he wants, he's totally fine with that. He's not going to get everything he wants. The Ukrainians don't want you there. They are this is a sovereign nation. They are free people, and they want no part of whatever it is that you have to offer. Now, if they get the Donbass region, will the West say, give it to them? It's a possibility. Could he feel like that's a victory? It's a possibility. But still, that's a tough thing, man, because you're talking about, once again, letting them annex a certain part of your land. What's the next thing? What's the next thing? And his people are feeling it today with SWIFT. Basically they're banned from using all the banking systems that trade in dollars, which is pretty much everything. That's what it's backed up by. It's going to get ugly for them, and they're going to feel it at home in more ways than they realize. The ruble collapsed today. You got to basically do everything in cash because there's no longer electronic transactions. And this is something that people are starting to realize. The interest rates over there jumped to 20% today. So think about that. Ugly. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Tweet at us, text the program. Tomorrow night, State of the Union.
The president is going into this speech in a very difficult position. Our latest poll shows he has just a 37% approval rating. That is the lowest point of his presidency. Now, here on the Hill, I can tell you they are already beefing up security for this amid some concerns that a truck convoy may try to disrupt the night. They've already put back up that big temporary fencing around the Capitol, and the Pentagon has authorized up to 700 members of the National Guard. They are taking no chances.
Yeah, nothing's going to happen. I think we all know that. But there you go. Better be safe than sorry, I guess. But Biden's got a lot to deal with, right? So he's got the Ukraine. People are still asking questions about Afghanistan. Our border failure here. COVID, the response was ridiculous at times and just overdone. You've got inflation, the economy, and we still have a division. And I don't think he gets it.
Is a phenomenal negative psychological impact that COVID has had on the public psyche. And so you have an awful lot of people who are, notwithstanding the fact that that things have gotten so much better for them economically that they are thinking, but how do you get up in the morning feeling happy? Right. Happy that everything's all right.
Because I don't think people feel that way. They're looking at $4 gas in the next coming days. The raise that they're getting, quote unquote, isn't going to overcome the cost of living on a daily basis that they're starting to feel is taking, it's running away from their raise. That's the reality of it. Great, you make 8% more than you did last year, but inflation's up 10.5% where you live. So you're down 2.5%. And let's be real, inflation's a lot bigger than that.
Prices at the pump could continue to increase here and across the country. California leads the nation when it comes to these prices. For premium gas, you're paying $6.35. For regular gas, you're paying $6.31. And while the prices may be a lot lower in other parts of the country, we could all be impacted by the Russia-Ukraine crisis. But experts are predicting it's $4 a gallon average in the U.S. in just a matter of weeks.
Yep, by mid-March. That's what they're saying. I paid $3.89 or something like that today for gas. 3 weeks ago, it was down around $3.49, $3.52, depending on the day. So don't think that this isn't going to play a part into what's going on over there. They're a major exporter of oil, and it's sitting over $100 right now. That will start to be built in over the coming days and weeks. People are going to start to get frustrated because, again, you could tell them that life is great, but you're just now starting to loosen up in certain major cities the COVID restrictions. There's still a battle going on there because you also put mandates on so many people that pissed everybody off. You were more of a divider at times than a uniter that you thought you were going to be. It's hard to tell people and make them believe that their life is amazing and wonderful when they're trying to put gas in their car, worried about whether or not their job is going to be open, should there be another spike in something, or that they're going to have to go down to part-time hours. Sorry, that's a you thing. It's not that people are like, oh, they've been tricked into thinking, they've been brainwashed into thinking that everything is bad. I don't think everything's bad. But I think if you are living at that middle class line where, you're living you a little bit more than paycheck to paycheck as far as your money goes, but you've seen that shrink. Now you're looking around thinking to yourself, I can't do this for very long. I'm making serious decisions about, I don't fill my car up anymore. I get enough to get to and fro. And we're only getting a certain amount of groceries. Childcare is going up. People feel that every day. So you can talk about it and you can try to tell everybody it's because of COVID. It's because of a lot of things. COVID definitely played a part, but there's other things in there as well. And some of that has to do with the way that the president's done a lot of things. The continuous printing of money that both the Republicans and the Democrats did is massive. Don't think it's not. It is. We continue to do that. The COVID restrictions played a huge part in it. It broke an already tough supply chain that was struggling and made it even a tougher go. So there's a lot that goes into this. We'll see how he does tomorrow night. 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Tweet up, text us, do all of those kind of things. Love hearing from everybody. Celebrate with Calibrate because you lost some weight. So Calibrate is not like your, hey, here's a diet program. This is the way it works, blah, blah. It's not like that. What it is FDA-approved medication along with one-on-one coaching, lifestyle changes that are meant to actually succeed. So many of the lifestyle changes you've seen a lot of these other places that do this stuff. They throw stuff out there and you're just like, it's not sustainable. My friend's doing Calibrate. She works here and I said, you need to try this. She was doing something and she was miserable because it It's not sustainable. And I said, this is why Calibrate's great. It's FDA-approved medication. It took them a long time, 2 decades, to get this right, and they've got it right. You're going to get one-on-one video coaching, in-app tracking, and community of members like you get to talk to each other, and, of course, the medical care, including a video doctor visit. On average, Calibrate's members, the first ones, well over 20+% of weight loss. That's percent of weight loss, not pounds, percent. That's massive. Easy to fit into your life. Try it. You won't be disappointed. It's not about your willpower all the time. There's a portion of people out there that need to understand it's about resetting your metabolic insides to get them right and to get them synced up. Try Calibrate, get $50 off one year metabolic reset. Use promo code CHAD at joincalibrate.com. Joincalibrate.com, promo code CHAD. Joincalibrate.com. Use that promo code, save $50 right there. Chad Benson Show.
Running with scissors sounds great compared to this.
Say what? So baseball is having some issues. Pitchers and catchers should have reported. We should be getting into the first week of spring training. None of that stuff is happening because there is a lockout going on right now. And Buster only talk about this because there are some serious issues here when it comes to what we could see in the world of baseball, including the fact that we may not see baseball.
It is possible that the owners, again, because they're in a position where they have the greater financial might, if they were to come into the room today and say, you know what, guys, we're going to make a major move forward, then you could start the talks, and in good faith, knowing that progress is being made, you could conceivably, get a deal done the next couple days because there's so many details to come, and everyone would work through that and bypass that deadline they've been talking about.
Yeah, which is today. But I don't think that's going to happen. And one of the things is, you heard him say it, man, the owner's got all the power right now. The owner's got tons of power when it comes to this because they're billionaires, not just millionaires. They're billionaires. This isn't their only business. This is a toy they bought themselves.
If you're ownership, you potentially could pursue the nuclear strategy of waiting to see if you can force major change of regime on the other side. Again, that's a strategy. It's possible they could, get, in weeks from now, something that they're looking forward to. But the damage done to the sport in the interim would be monumental.
Yeah. Baseball's already struggling. Young people don't play baseball. Young people don't watch baseball. The people that run baseball need to figure it out. They're more excited about playing video games, watching football and basketball, soccer and hockey. You have the money because you've got the prestige of being the New York Yankees or whatever. You've been around forever and a day. But the reality is, make no bones about it, you're not the pastime that you once were. So you better figure out what you're going to do if you want to save it. Because if not, unlike 94, I don't know what would happen if there was a full lockout and there was no more baseball. I don't know if it comes back without losing 5 or 10 teams. That's the reality of it. Batman coming out this weekend. Last weekend?
I've been dreaming about this my whole life. With no new major releases, this weekend's box office top 5 is exactly like last weekend's. Uncharted holds first with a further $23.2 million, followed by Dog, Spider-Man No Way Home, Death on the Nile, and Jackass Forever. Oh my God! Rock band Foo Fighters horror comedy Studio 666 bows in 8th, but everyone's just marking time until Friday. I'm vengeance. That's when The Batman debuts nationwide, already tracking to open with well over $100 million.
Yeah. So, and it's weird the way that DC's kind of done their things comparatively to Marvel. Marvel's big and it's bold. And it's like the stories are everybody coming together, unity. This one's going to be dark. People say it's more like a horror movie than what you would see in the past, which will be interesting to see how that plays itself out. They said think kind of the Joker, but the Batman version of it. Robert Pattinson is going to be playing the Batman, so we'll see what that looks like. At Chad Benson Show's your Twitter, ChadBenson. If you miss any of the show, grab it on your podcast, Spotify, iHeart, all the places. Have yourself a blessed rest of your day. We got through the Monday. Thank the Lord. Night, Jack.
This is the Chad Benson Show.